Hi, welcome to another episode of this Power BI course. In today's lesson, we are going to be learning about logical function in DAX. If you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, can you do so now? Just to support the value that I give here, and also like this video if you find this very helpful. Alright, today we're going to be learning about two logical functions. One is the if function, and the second is the switch function. They're very similar in Excel. If you are very familiar with Excel, they're very similar. The if function in Excel works exactly the same way in Power BI, and the switch is an alternative for ifs, multiple if or ifs in Excel. And if you are familiar with SQL, switch is also in SQL. So it's an ecosystem that borrows the different languages from each other. Alright, let's jump into the lesson properly. Alright, now we have our table sales. Just click on it, it takes you here, and then we'll start with the if function. So we're going to write a logical function to say that if unit price is greater than 1,000, then it is considered expensive. If not, it is considered cheap. Alright, so then we're going to write a new column. Now you can't write a new measure because you're not aggregating anything. So you're doing category. You're creating a new column based on category. So you use a new column, and then we're saying unit, or let me just call this price category equals if. That's the function we're using. Now, what is the logical test? What's the logical test? So I'm going to go to the next line so that you don't have your formula on one line. So I'm going to press the shift and the enter key. Now go to the next line. So the first argument that comes here is my logical test. What am I testing? So what column are we looking at? Unit price. If unit price, good. If unit price is greater than 1,000. Now, you don't have to leave space between the greater than and whatever, but I love to leave space so that it's readable. If unit price is greater than 1,000, then you move to the next argument, which is result if true. What's the result if true? So I'm going to go to the next line, shift enter, just to have a readable code. That's why I'm doing it like this. It doesn't matter, I can write it on everything on the same line, but best practice, this is the best practice, this is the way to write it. And then what's your if true? If this value is true, then I'm going to say it is expensive. That means if the unit price exceeds 1,000 naira, I'm going to say it is expensive. Right? Good. So if it exceeds 1,000 naira, is expensive. So you put out a code because it's a text, comma. Then what's the value if false? I'll put that, enter. Value if false, I'll say it is cheap. That means if this value is not true, that means if it is not greater than 1,000, which means it is less than 1,000, I will consider that cheap. And then I will close my brackets that I've opened earlier. Good. And then I can hit enter. Exactly. So as you can see, 838.92 is less than 1,000, so it's considered that cheap. And if you filter this, you can go and filter by the expensive one, and then click OK, and then you see that all of this is 2,448.7 expensive, 4,079.98 expensive. So you can see that all these are expensive, right? Exactly. So I'm going to filter back. Okay, good. Now the next logical function we're going to look at is the switch function, which is similar to the ifs function in Excel. Alright, so I'm going to create a new column. So we're going to call this revenue category. So what we want to do is that we want to split the revenue into different categories: low revenue, fair revenue, medium revenue, high revenue, and very high revenue. So how do you want to split that? Low revenue between 0 and 100, high revenue, fair revenue between 100 and 500, median revenue will be between 500 and 1,000, high revenue between 1,000 and 1,500, and very high revenue will be 1,500 and above. All right, let's try to do that. So we're going to use the switch function, switch, and then hit enter. So the first argument is our expression. As you can see, what's going to be our expression. So that's why you cannot use the if. So if was our logical test. If this revenue colon, this one, if this revenue, if revenue is greater than equal to 0, that means from 0 upward, and so that and is going to be this ampersand symbol twice, and this same revenue colon is less than 100. Now that's the value if that's the two argument, that's the range. That means the revenue column must be between 0 and must be less than, it must be greater than equals to 0 and it must be less than 100, comma. So what's the value if true? If it is true, tell me that it is low, and then I'll close this. That's the first requirement, comma. Then the next requirement. So I'm going to copy this. Since I'm going to be writing it I'm going to be writing almost exactly the same thing. Copy and then paste. Now the only difference here is this is going to start from 100, and then this is going to go down less than 500, and then this will be fair, and then comma for the next one, shift enter, go to the next line, paste the previous one, the previous code, edit this to greater than equals to 500 and less than 1,000, and then we'll consider this as median. Oops. Medium, comma, shift enter, and then paste the next one, which is greater than equals to 1,000, and then this is less than 1,500, and I'll consider this high. Then comma. Now this is where it gets tricky. This is the last one. That means greater than anything greater than 1,500 should be considered very high. So I wouldn't write if again. I will just use this as my else statement, but that else statement will just be a text. Basically, it can be anything. I'll just say once it doesn't meet any of these requirements that are written above, then return this. So this is going to be very high. Yep. And then shift enter, close the brackets. Now I want you to look at this snippet of code very well. Switch, so we have the ifs inside of this switch function. Then we have the first one, you say the revenue column must be greater than equals to 0, but must be less than 1,000. We consider that low. The revenue must be greater than equals to 100 but less than 500. We consider that fair. It was greater than 500 but less than 1,000. Consider that medium, must be greater than equal to 1,000 and must be less than 1,500, and everything that is not equals to these four things I've said, consider that very high. Now I want you to note this thing. If you notice, this is less than 100, so that means anything from 99.999 we consider that as low, right? But anything 100 will be considered fair and above. So up to 499.9999 we consider that fair. The moment it is 500, it's considered that medium because it's greater than equal to 500. Just to clarify that. So when you're writing your expression, ensure that you are very, very clear about the logic, and then I hit enter. Yeah, voila, we have this. I think I made a mistake when I was trying to show you this. So price category, when you filter price category, you have just two things. So we said that it must be greater than 1,000. So if I click on expensive, what do I see? So you can see that look at the unit price, right? We said all these are greater than 1,000, not this. This is revenue column. That's what I said earlier. So this is unit price, right? All of this must be greater than 1,000, right? Exactly. It must be greater than 1,000. So when you click on the cheap option, you see that all these are less than 1,000. The unit price are less than 1,000 based on the logic that we use. All right, this brings us to the end of this episode, and I hope that you gained value from this. If you did, do not forget to click the subscribe button and then hit the like button as well. And then I'll see you in the next episode.